TFLev is brought to you by Flow Charger, maker of reliable, high-quality charging stations for your electric vehicle.
Hey everybody, welcome to such a special video because I am standing in front of the new fast Prius, the Prius Prime, the 220 horsepower plug-in hybrid beast, or I should say we are because I'm with Sophion.
Hey Tommy, thanks for having me.
So Sophion Bate from Redline Reviews, one of the leading automotive experts in the industry.
Oh, you're so nice, Tommy, thank you.
Now Sophion, what do you think of the fast Prius?
Well, it's definitely the ultimate Prius in Toyota speak, and I really like the way it looks. I mean, it has the same beautiful look as the regular Prius, unlike the previous generation Prime, which Toyota tried to make look better, but I just like how Toyota kind of just made it look the same, although, as you can see, it's got different wheels on it.
Yeah, this thing is really, really good looking, right? The old one was short, narrow, and kind of tall and looked a little bit like a golf cart.
Yeah.
This thing is longer, lower, wider. How much longer, lower, and wider?
So it's about 2 inches wider, an inch lower, and an inch longer, and that makes a serious difference. It's not good for the interior space, which we'll talk about later, but in terms of the design, Toyota wanted to create a sexy Prius, and I don't know, Tommy, did they do it?
You know, Sophion, I loved the old one.
Yes, you did.
It was my baby, but I do have to admit it was not an attractive vehicle. This thing is pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I think that this car finally has like the design that's going to appeal to a younger buyer, and that's exactly what Toyota wants. And they also have introduced a couple of new tech toys in this car, which we can talk about in a little later on in the video. One thing I do want to mention, Tommy, Toyota said they gave this car a new lock and unlock confirmation chime. Have you heard it?
No, you want to do it?
Okay, so here's the key fob.
Yeah. Oh, it's happy.
Yeah, it's very, what's the word? Like just quiet. It's not like jarring or like in your face.
It's like a little like bling.
But they haven't said if it's going to show up on every other car, but hey, I think it's a really cool addition on this thing.
Really interesting. That's a really cool little Easter egg. And speaking of Easter eggs, Toyota wants people to know that you bought a Prius because it says Prius everywhere. From this little bit of trim up here on the windshield to the rear glass, it says Prius. Even the rear fender liner says Prius in the back here. And there's some little hashtags and things too.
Yeah, Hybrid Reborn, I think, is the hashtag they wanted us to use for this car when we post on our socials. But, I mean, hey, it's kind of a trendy thing right now, and I like how Toyota is trying to make the car feel a little more interesting.
Now, let's talk about the two different flaps on the side of the car. There's one on the left, and there's one over here. What do these do, Sophion?
Yeah, so the one on the driver's side, that's the gas tank. But over here, you can see there's your J177072 plug. It has a 3.5 kilowatt onboard charger, which means it takes about 4 hours to recharge this thing, which is a little bit slow, but as you can see, it doesn't have a DC fast charge because this is a plug-in hybrid.
So the electric tank is 13.6 kilowatt hours. And what's the range?
So Toyota actually says 44 miles on the SE, which has the smaller 17-inch wheels. This model here will do about 39 miles on the 19-inch wheels.
So do you get the base boy SE with more range, or do you get the fancy wheels and less range?
You know, I think I'm willing to sacrifice 5 miles of range for better looking wheels. What do you think, Tommy?
Sophion has never once said get the base boy of any car.
Well, what do you think about the wheels, by the way, Tommy? Because this thing still has really skinny tires. It's kind of funny to look at.
I mean, so the wheel, 19-inch wheel, right?
Yes.
Which is really, really large, especially for a Prius. But the actual width of the tire, it's like a 195.
195, and what's interesting is the 17 and the 19-inch wheel also has a 195. It's just the aspect ratio. This is a 50 series versus the 60 on the 17-inch wheel.
That's interesting. I mean, of course they want to maximize efficiency, but it's not quite as bad as like the i3. Remember the i3 was
yeah,
really
the
narrow?
little go-kart wheels on it.
Yeah, but it's definitely a little bit odd. And then coming around to the back here, so we've got a long light bar which extends the width of the vehicle. Huge Prius here. This little Prime badge, and then what's this little button, Sophia?
So that is their new Beyond Zero badge, and the Prius is the first model to get it. This is, I guess, their next generation of electrified vehicles. So you're going to be seeing that on a lot of new Toyota models in the future.
One thing which I think is funny is you got Prius in like block letters, and then Prime in cursive.
Yeah, I don't know why they decided to use a different script, but I guess they thought it looks better.
Well, pop it open. Let's see what the trunk looks like.
Yes, so this XSE Premium has a power liftgate, which I was surprised to find. But in terms of cargo space, 20.3 cubic feet, but it's actually not reduced versus the standard hybrid.
So is that more or less space than the old Prius?
I want to say it's less.
I think it's a little less.
I think the old Prius had 25 cubic feet of space, which if you fold down the seats, it expands it to 26 and a half. So it's not great, but hey, there's a Corolla Cross hybrid, there's a RAV4 hybrid, a Camry hybrid if you want more trunk space, and there is still nice little touches here like a household power outlet.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of underfloor storage here. If you look underneath here, you can see there's the charge cable, but sadly no spare tire, Tommy.
Interesting. Now I want to try something.
Yes.
And I might regret this. But I want to try getting behind myself in the rear seat here.
Oh, okay.
So, first things first, legroom is great. Headroom is horrible.
Oh yeah, and I don't think you can sit all the way back, Tommy, because when I sit all the way back, and I'm only 5'7", my head actually hits the roof.
Can we see that? You want to hop in here?
Yes. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Headroom space is pretty bad when somebody's short like myself. Like, I can get back here, I'm comfy, but then as I sit back, I can feel my head is like, my hair is just brushing the roof. Which,
yeah.
is not great for somebody that's already short.
Interesting. So, the old Prius, right, kind of became a pinnacle of Uber fleets around the world. And part of the reason it was such a good Uber car is the rear seat room.
Yep.
If you are looking to maybe use a car in a similar manner, Corolla hybrid, Prius or Corolla Cross hybrid, RAV4, yeah,
Camry
those might be
hybrid.
better options.
Yeah, I mean, but this whole like sweeping windshield here, this is going to give you a 0.27 coefficient of drag, and that's, I think, the most aerodynamic in Toyota's lineup.
Yeah, and they say that this sweeping roof here, or sweeping windshield, is the same angle of attack as a Lexus LFA.
I definitely believe it, but it looks good as it goes into the solar roof here, Tommy.
You like the solar roof?
Yeah, it's only $600 extra, and this apparently can absorb 185 kilowatts, or watts, I think is what they said.
Yeah, 185 watts. They said up to like 2-3 miles of added range in a full day of sun, which isn't bad.
Yeah.
But you can also get it with dual sunroofs,
Okay.
or you can do a metal roof as well. So you got a couple options.
Okay. I like how they offer the options, but I don't know if I'd want to leave it parked out in the sun all day and have the interior get hot.
It's a good question. It's a good point. Well, Sophie, let's do this. I'm going to hop in the driver's seat. You want to get next to me?
Yeah.
And we'll take it for a spin.
Okay.
Oh, right, my dude. Now you got us the top spec Prius. What does that mean?
That means we have all the tech toys in this car, including heated and cooled seats, which on a warm day today is kind of nice.
It is nice, but what's funny about this car is that heated seats are an option, ventilated seats are an option, but the heated steering wheel is standard.
Yeah, that is pretty cool, actually. I wasn't expecting that, especially considering the fact that this doesn't have all-wheel drive.
Yeah, so you can get the standard Prius in front-wheel drive and all-wheel drive, but the Prime, front-wheel drive only, right?
And they said that was because of packaging reasons, not because of cost or lack of interest. You just couldn't fit it there with the bigger battery pack.
Now walk me through some of the tech. What size screen are we looking
So
at?
this is a 12.3-inch display. It's their new Toyota audio multimedia interface, and this is the big screen is only standard on the premium version. The other trims will have an 8-inch screen, while the XSE is optional to get the 12-inch screen.
So this is pretty cool. You can see today we have generated 614 watt-hours from the solar panel.
That's pretty cool.
And it's currently generating 4.
Okay.
But let's try something. Let me back it up into the sun. Let's see if we can
Generate more power.
max that puppy out. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, in the sun,
Oh,
129.
wow. That's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah. So if we go into distance, you can see today we have added 2.7 miles to the range.
Just from it being parked in the sun for the last 8 hours.
That's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a cool touch. I like how you can see that in the screen.
Yeah, I really like that a lot. Now, the standard screen is a little smaller than this, right?
Yeah, it's an 8-inch display, although the bezel, I think, is the same. You're just going to have more unused portions of the screen.
We also have the fully digital rearview mirror.
Which I love. I know you don't really like it as much, right, Tommy?
Well, my brain is just not big enough to process reality versus digital there. And then, of course, we have a little cluster screen here as well.
Yeah, so that was taken directly off of the BZ4X along with the steering wheel, which I still don't love the setup. I think there's just too much going on, and I also don't like how you have to have the steering wheel lower so you can actually see that screen.
Yeah, because if you try to like see the screen through the middle, unless you're real height challenged, you're not going to be able to. That's true. But overall interior, a lot less bubbly than the old one, but a lot more kind of clean, a lot more premium.
Yeah, definitely more premium and a lot more modern. I also like how they flipped the orientation of the screen, whereas the old one had it vertically versus the landscape style, I think, is a lot better.
Yeah.
But in terms of like the differences between the regular Prius and this one, you have a lot of red trim in here, which I think Toyota says was supposed to add a sporty vibe to it.
Is that red trim standard on the Prime?
That's what they said, because the regular one has blue ambient lighting, and there's no like red on the dash here, and then there's a lot of red trim on the seats, so I think it's pretty cool.
Okay, interesting. Now we have a bunch of different drive modes, and you can control them down here,
Yes.
these little buttons. So you've got EV, HV, Auto, EV, HV, and Hold. What do those mean?
So EV mode is what the car is going to default to when you have enough charge. So we have like around 70, 80% charge, 24 miles of EV range. This is where the car will literally stay in electric only mode, even when your foot goes all the way to the floor, which I love.
Yeah.
The auto mode, if I switch to here, will stay in EV primarily until you give it the beans, and then it'll turn the gas engine on to give you the full power. There's also a hybrid mode, which if you push that, it'll go directly into hybrid mode, so the gas engine should turn on. And if you push and hold that button, it'll also go into a charge mode, which will charge up the battery.
Wow, so you got a lot of different kind of settings. And what do you think most people are going to drive this car in?
I think most people are going to have it in auto HE EV mode, or for me, honestly, if I was going to plug this in every night, I would put it in EV mode all the time.
Now, do you think people are going to charge this up to full every single night?
You know, it really depends, but if you have access to a plug, I feel like most people are going to have access to at least a 110 outlet, and Toyota says it'll take about 11 hours to charge on a 110.
Yeah, so it's not a super fast charging vehicle on 110. 240, also not super fast. Like if they had given this a beefier charger, you could get a full charge in just a couple hours. In this case, you're going to be waiting about 4. Now here on the screen, you can actually see some important information. So on electricity, we have 24 miles of range. On gasoline, 408.
Yep.
But if this thing was topped up with electricity and gas, we'd be looking at 550, right, range?
Yeah, I think they said around 550, which is literally like twice the range of most full electric vehicles.
That's pretty amazing. You know, if you have a commute, 10, 12 miles, right, to and from the office, I think 39 up to 44 miles of range should be enough for most folks.
Yeah, I think Toyota said the average commute is about 31 miles for people in America. So theoretically, you could get to your work an all-electric range and not have to use a single drop of gas.
All right, you want to stick me in EV mode?
In EV mode,
Yep.
yes, you're in EV mode.
All right, 15 miles an hour, full throttle, the speed limit. 30, 40, and 50 there.
It's actually pretty quick. Like, I'm surprised. It feels like you're driving an all-electric car there, because like the torque is instantaneous. And also, did you hear that little electric motor sound it's making when you put your foot down, Tommy?
Yeah,
I like it.
Here, we'll do it again. Ready? Whee!
You know, I think this might be the first Toyota that makes a sound. I don't think the RAV4 Prime nor the BZ4X makes that sound.
So, 0 to 60 in all-electric mode, what would you guess?
So I actually tested it in my video.
You did?
I got 11.6 seconds in all-electric mode.
Wow, okay.
Which is like half the time of it in hybrid mode, but the electric motor makes 161 horsepower on its own, so that's actually more powerful than the old Prius Prime when it was using both gas and electric.
I think in electric mode, it feels perfectly like normal, you know? You can keep up with traffic, you can squirt around people if you want, and as you mentioned earlier, you can go full accelerator and not kick on the gas engine, which is really a nice thing.
Yeah.
But it certainly isn't quick, you know?
No. You can feel it runs out of steam when you're trying to get up on higher speeds, but that initial tip in, it's fast.
Now, stick me into the hybrid vehicle mode, and we'll see how the acceleration changes there. So we're going about 38 miles an hour. Oh, in a sport on the drive mode, full throttle. Whoa. Yeah, that's a pretty noticeable difference, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, but what's interesting is how Toyota ramps the power up, because initially it feels a little bit sluggish. It's almost like they're limiting torque because this is only front-wheel drive. But then I think when you go past 30 miles an hour, it feels properly quick.
Yeah, from like that 30 to like 50 passing point, you get a little burst of electricity, and then of course that 4-cylinder engine ramps in, and then you can really unleash all 220 horsepower. Now in the quickest mode, Toyota says 0 to 60 in 6.6.
Yes.
What did you get, can I ask?
I actually got 6.68. Now, I did have my editor with me in the front seat, but we did the same run in the regular version with him in the car. We got 6.7 in the regular hybrid. So I'm hoping...
Oh, interesting.
I'm hoping this will be faster when I retested, because I was expecting it to be like low 6s, to be honest.
And if you want to see those views, you got to check out Redline Reviews.
Yes, absolutely.
He's got all that on his channel. Now, driving-wise, steering is very light, even in sport mode. It definitely is a little bit overboosted. Let's go back into kind of the normal. It's not a very dynamic chassis, but it certainly handles a lot better than the old one, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, I think Toyota paid a little bit better attention to the suspension tuning, and the steering, I wish it had more feel, but The car surprisingly doesn't feel that heavy. In fact, the curb weight of this car is only 200 pounds heavier versus the regular one, which I thought is pretty acceptable.
That is pretty acceptable, yeah. It's not that much heavier, and they did kind of rework the suspension a little bit to adjust for the additional weight. So look, the old one was a good commuter, but no one was ever excited to drive a Prius in a canyon.
Yeah.
This new one could be kind of fun, right?
I think it could be. I mean, we don't have very many curves to drive on today, but you get a sense that this car just feels a lot more premium now.
Now, let's talk a little bit about TSS 3.0, which is the safety systems. So we've got lane keeping assist, we've got adaptive cruise, we've got blind spot monitoring, emergency braking, pretty much all of it, right?
Yeah, and it's all standard even on the base model, so I love how Toyota does that. And it's their 3.0, so it's their most updated system. However, for this car, it's the first Toyota to get traffic jam assistance.
Yeah, so at low speeds, stuck in traffic, you can do hands off the wheel. The car will keep you at a set distance behind the car in front of you. And then this sensor here is actually watching your eyes, and it's monitoring to make sure you're paying attention.
Yeah, which obviously that technology is necessary, although I am noticing it keeps yelling at you because it can't see your eyes.
Yeah, so when I cover up the sensor like this, it says, sit up! Driver's face not detected!
And where's the exclamation mark? I feel like it should have back there because it's almost like yelling at you.
So aggressive. Sit up. I'm not even laying down, it's just my hands in the way. So that's a little bit annoying. But car is very well equipped, right? Ventilated seats, heated steering wheel, heated wiper blades, JBL premium audio system in this one. But what's the pricing?
So the base pricing starts at $32,300 for the base SE, which is about $5,000 more than the regular Prius, which I think is actually pretty acceptable. You're going to do around $35,000 for the XSE, and this model here starts at $39,170.
Yeah, so you're going to be, touching 40 starting on the premium, and then with some options, you're going to be over 40 grand.
Yeah, this one's about $40,575.
Yeah,
Toyota told us.
Yeah, so it is a more expensive vehicle than the outgoing generation.
Yes,
the Prime was a little bit more affordable, started at like 28 and some change.
Yeah, but I know what, Tommy. I think it's worth the $4,000 extra that they're charging.
You think so?
Yeah, with almost the range is so much better, so much more power, a lot more tech. I think $4,000 is pretty reasonable. Now, sadly, this vehicle is built in Japan, so it doesn't qualify for the tax credit, but I think it's worth it even without it.
So, vehicles like the 4xe that you own, right? A lot of other plug-in hybrids built in North America do get $7,500 back on your taxes. This one doesn't.
Correct.
But what is this vehicle's chief competitor? What do you think it competes with, Sophia?
Ooh.
Nero?
Yeah, you could do a Nero plug-in hybrid, although the Nero key elects to bill it as a crossover vehicle.
It's not a crossover.
It's not a crossover. No. The Nero has about 30 miles of electric-only range, so this has more. This also has more power. The Nero has about 180 horsepower, I think. This is 220, so... I think that Toyota has priced it pretty right because the Nero, I think, is also around 30, it's like low 30s to start, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I mean, it's competitively priced and it's a lot more sexy. My big issues with this car, the roofline, it's just a little too low. If you're over 6 feet tall, you're going to be struggling with that a little bit. Rear seat room is worse than the old version. That's, it is what it is. And then you can't get the all-wheel drive in the Prime. So you can get the all-wheel drive in the standard Prius, which is great, but not in the Prime. And I want the 220 horsepower and the plug-in capability, but I also want to be able to go in the snow, and that really isn't an option unless you get the RAV4.
Right.
Yeah, so it's a very compelling car, though. They said they're going to try to build 10,000 of these this year, and they're going to be hitting dealers in May.
Yep, and they said that eventually this car will be about 30% of Prius sales, which I think is a little too low. I feel like more are going to end up buying this car.
You think so?
Oof. All that Prius torque, Tommy. You're going to break my neck over here.
You get like this little whine, too. Here, I'm going to slow down and accelerate up to the speed limit. No one behind us. Ready?
Oh, yeah.
You hear that? It's like a little supercharger. Just
well, I think it's the electric motor whine
for sure.
combined with the engine.
Yeah, it's not actually a supercharger.
Yeah. It's interesting. It doesn't sound as crappy as the old engine, I have to say, though.
What's the fuel economy of this car when you're not on electricity?
So on hybrid mode, Toyota says it does about 50 in the city, 49 highway with the 19-inch wheels.
Okay.
So it dropped about 4 mpg versus the regular hybrid, which I think is acceptable.
Yeah, it got a little bit worse, but not that much worse. Well, guys, let us know what you think in the comment section below. A big thank you to Sophia. And Sophia, where can folks find your channel?
You can find us at Redline Reviews. We also have TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all that other stuff.
All the usual places. As always, guys, this has been Tommy with the TFL Network. We'll see you on another video.